It's my joy to introduce you to Mr. Satish Patil. He's an eminent leader in the field of agrochemicals. I met Mr. Satish Patil about 10 years back, close to 12 years back, when I had the opportunity to train his team. And he's been in the agrochemicals industry. He's a great leader, and the evidence of that is because once I was recently flying to Singapore and I met one old participant who has worked under Satish Patil sir. We met briefly for just about 5 minutes, but out of the 5 minutes, 4 minutes talk was about Mr. Satish Patil, and that's when I knew that Mr. Satish Patil is not a positional leader. He's a leader who wields a lot of influence. And this is much after this person has joined some other organization and still, so fondly remembers. So I requested Satish Patil sir, what would be his take on leading in VUCA times, as we all know that these are extraordinary times to be living in. Extraordinary because these are scary as well as exciting. So here's some views from Patil sir, who will help us understand what is his mantra in terms of leading in VUCA times. I have some questions. Welcome sir to this talk, and my first question is, while hiring or promoting a leader, what are the key factors that you will consider?
So first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you, Thomas. As you know, in the corporate world, leadership positions are always coveted, and there are more than one claimant always for this kind of a position. So therefore, the first and foremost criteria always is a proven track record, because again, you have to choose between the performers. So that has to be the first criteria. But among the equals who are performing well, then the weightage goes to the leadership qualities as is observed by others. And I think these two are the simple criteria that I follow when I choose leadership positions.
Fantastic. What advice would you give someone going into a leadership position for the very first time?
Good. So I think the fact that very first time he is becoming a leader means he is transforming, or he has to transform from being a doer to being a leader who gets things done. So the first and foremost things that one needs to watch out for is to recognize and understand the initial discomfort that one faces of letting go of the control. You have to get somebody to do it, and therefore it's not easy thing when you have been the doer all along. So to recognize that discomfort and deal with it is the first thing, and also to recognize that what got you here won't get you there. So therefore the person has to start understanding when to lead, when not to lead, when not to hold too much of a hand, at the same time not to delegate too much, to recognize delegation is not offloading of work. So you need to have right checks and balances and right recognition of when to intervene and how to monitor from a distance, how to anticipate troubles, and all these things.
Fantastic. What are the few resources you would recommend to someone who's looking to gain insights in becoming a better leader?
A large number of, I would say, the resources. First and foremost, you should never take yourself for granted you know everything. There's never end to learning. So you have to continuously upgrade yourself, because what you know now is going to get outdated within a couple of years. So you need to keep reading and familiarizing yourself what is latest. Second resource that you have is your feedbacks, 360s, which is what it is telling you. You need to take it seriously at certain frequency. You should do it and go through it seriously and understand. That shows you a mirror, and doesn't have to be formal. It can be an informal 360 also. And read for the signals, and you will get to know what it is telling you. Third thing, a big resource that you have is your network. Yeah. Because as a leader, you're supposed to bring value to your subordinates. They are doing the job, but you have to provide them some content which is what they cannot easily get. So through your network, you are getting some market information, some trains, or whatever information you have. That is your resource. Your boss can also be a resource. Depends on how you build a bridge with the boss, but he can also be a resource. So your books, your subordinates, your 360 feedback, as well as your network, these are all your resources.
What is the biggest challenge leaders face in these VUCA times, according to you?
So as we say, the VUCA times is full of volatility, complexity, lack of clarity, ambiguity. Now, the first challenge is, in olden times, the leadership used to come via performance. So you are delivering the great results, and then that's your claim to the leadership positions. In this VUCA times, uncertainty times, it's not always very easy to show results, right? So you have to earn your leadership not always through a great performance or not always through your competence levels. So sometimes in the complex world, you are leading a team of people who are knowledgeable than you. You don't know much about their business and you are still leading them. So that's the first challenge. If you the only way you know by leading people is your knowledge, then that's a challenging time. Okay. The second challenge is how long you take to bounce back. In VUCA times, setbacks are given. They do happen. And that is where it differentiates a right leader versus the other one in VUCA times, when how long you take to bounce back or it breaks you. So how you conduct yourself in front of your team is very important, how long you take to bounce back. Now this is where it's a very fine balance between keeping a brave face in front of your team, and while you might be having your own anxieties, you have to still make sure they remain motivated and focused and committed to the goals. At the same time, being authentic about it. And trust me, that is the toughest time.
Being authentic.
Being authentic is not that easy. So you need to have the right balance while being authentic. You also cannot be that authentic that everything which is driving your anxiety is all you are offloading it to your team. Then you are a weak leader. At the same time, you are pretending to be a superhero that nothing moves you is also not credible by the team. So striking that right balance so that you win their trust is another very important thing. Third thing is, in this today's competitive world, nobody gives you the benefit of VUCA. You have to deliver predictable results as a leader regardless of the uncertainty, volatility. And now that builds a lot of pressure on you. So you are required to deliver results sometimes by adopting means which are not always sustainable. So how do you strike that balance between doing things which are short-term result giving but at the same time not very sustainable, versus how much pressure do you absorb and don't pass it down to the team. So self-management and understanding yourself is one of the most important things. Most of the times the leadership failure comes from not knowing yourself and how you will react to a situation.
The next question is very personal, sir. Yeah. What are you doing to ensure you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
Right, and as I said a minute ago, that knowing yourself is not as easy as you think. Each time situation exposes some things within you which you yourself didn't know existed, either on a positive side or sometimes on not so positive side. So trying to know yourself and your emotional quotient is very important. That's one thing I always keep track of. Secondly, I always believe in two-way appraisals. So I'm not always giving one side appraisal, and I'm always seeking also appraisal from my team, regardless of whether the company's process require it or not in an informal basis. 360, not exactly a 360, but keeps me, aligned.
And helps to discover your blind spots, if any.
Exactly.
Right. Finally, sir, again a personal question. Knowing what you now know, which one thing do you wish you had done differently?
Honestly, nothing. There's something called experiential learning. So whether you did things right or wrong doesn't matter. Even the wrong things have made you pass through consequences of what you did, and that experiential learning is unmatched. I would say if I had not done that, I don't know the consequences of what it would have been if I did something else. So honestly, there's nothing that I would change. I will go through the learning curve, and I enjoyed every moment of what I have done, and I'm happy with it. The outcome, good or not so good, because everything has given me something.
So that was Mr. Satish Patil, who was giving his distilled wisdom on leading in VUCA times. I'm sure you enjoyed this, and thank you, sir.
Thank you.